This module is dedicated to the contribution of optimality theory in the characterization of atypical phonological development or phonological disorders. We will start with a brief description of select pre-OT linguistic theories on the characterization of phonological disorders. The purpose is to provide a background on the role of the linguistic approaches in description of phonological disorder before optimality theory and to pinpoint the areas that are not covered by these theories. Many linguistic approaches before OT represented new perspectives to the study of atypical phonological development and treatment and have been Many linguistic approaches before OT represented new perspectives to the study of atypical phonological development and treatment and have been essential in shaping our understanding of the acquisition process, both in normal and phonologically disordered children. American structural linguistics caused a shift from identification of children's errors as list of isolated sounds to the recognition of error patterns. Distinctive feature theory made one of the most important contributions to linguistic theory, to speech-language pathology, with its proposal that each phoneme contained a special set of features. The application of this basic assumption, stating that children acquire features and not sounds in a remedial context, has facilitated the language development in the phonologically disordered children under treatment. Standard generative phonology, similar to distinctive feature theory, describes patterns of errors. It was hypothesized that if one part of an error pattern was corrected, the new form of pronunciation would be generalized to the other speech sounds in the pattern as well. Natural phonology, on the other hand, introduced the concept of phonological processes. The application of this notion to clinical data gave a basis for the identification of the patterns in data, that is, the systematic relation between the target pronunciation and the pronunciation of the child being assessed. Amongst the non-linear phonological approaches are underspecification theory and feature geometry. These suggested that rather different methods for clinical treatment are required in the special cases of phonological disorders, for example in relation to systematic sound preferences or favorite sounds. However, none of the above said phonological theories have been conclusive. There are still cases in language acquisition such as intra-word variations and the related phonological processes that the above theories have not been able to explain, or their explanations have not been very satisfactory. So in OT's point of view, the characteristics attributed to impaired speech can be visualized through the operation of the grammatical system stated by the components of OT like gen and eval in learning algorithms, and basically in constraint hierarchies which constitute the grammar. One of the main advantages of OT is in its capacity to explain some complicated aspects of disordered phonology in its own architecture, like related error patterns and variations. Optimality theory's description of children's error patterns as the patterns that derive from a complicated hierarchy of conflicting universal constraints have clinical significance because they pertain to both the diagnosis and treatment of the child's phonological errors. Let us look at some selected studies. In 2010, Dinson and others documented the typological incidence and interactions of two error patterns, namely velar fronting and labial harmony. Their results showed that the occurrence of labial harmony was dependent on the occurrence of velar fronting but not vice versa. Furthermore, when these procedures co-occurred, they all predicted three different kinds of interaction, which were feeding, counter-feeding and grandfather effect. Every interaction had the effect of aiming a different class of sounds for labial harmony. Such type of correlated error patterns have never been considered while using other theoretical approaches. Another study from Dinson and Geroot also studied the acquisition of phonology in a child with phonological delay, but from an analytical perspective of optimality theory. The analysis disclosed two autonomous but interacting error patterns, in this case namely deaffrication and consonant harmony. This study showed that the Martinez constraints creating these error patterns are fixed. They are fixed in their ranking, and that the demotion of the top ranked constraints connected to consonant harmony treated the targeted error patterns together with the untreated error patterns related to deaffrication, which is connected to the lower rank constraints. This result showed the implication of optimality theoretic analysis and predictions for the selection of treatment targets. Yet another study by Dinson and O'Connor considered two other development error patterns, that is, consonant place harmony and spirantization, which is the changing of a stop to a fricative. The data derived from two children with phonological delays was examined and compared with a normal group. This study also investigated whether there was any difference in the results if the treatment began with one implicationally related error pattern, for example spirantization, versus the other, for example here place harmony, or vice versa. The results showed that eradicating the implied error pattern, that is the one on which the others are dependent, would lead to the loss of the implying error patterns but not any loss of the latter. From this study, it was concluded that optimality theory's explanation was more acceptable than the traditional rule-based derivational theories because OT is able to show the implication relationship between the two seemingly independent phonological errors. Another contribution of OT to the assessment of disordered phonology is explaining a child's intraword variation that creates different realizations of the same word in the same conversation. Barlow used OT in the assessment of the errors occurring in the child's production. She analyzed a subset of his errors and also considered the variations in his productions. She found that the child produced unmarked forms that could be attributed to the high ranking Martinez constraints, which we have been looking at so far. Barlow also contributed the variations observed in the data to equal ranking of the related constraints as suggested by OT. She has concluded that the methodology offered by OT allows for an in-depth characterization of a phonological system, which can even lead to a better program, a better treatment program for children suffering from phonological disorders. Thus, the studies we have reviewed so far are mainly from the English-speaking population. Now let us look at OT's contribution to disordered phonology in Farsi-speaking children. So, one of the common differences between typical and atypical phonological development is the abundance of intra-word variations, which are inconsistent productions in children with phonological disorders. As we saw in the previous module, intra-word variation means the different productions of the same word in the same conversation. Let's understand this with an example. So as you can see, the table 1 gives intra-word variations for the Farsi word nose, and table 2 gives intra-word variations of a child for the Farsi word grape. From the tables, we can see that the constraints no liquid and no plosive and the constraints no nasal and no plosive are equally ranked. That is, none of them dominates each other. This equal ranking of the constraints has caused multiple optimal outputs in the production of the child with phonological disorder. Therefore, as said by OT, intra-word variations occur where the ranking of constraints are equal in the child grammar. Now, another type of variation encountered in atypical phonological development is interword variation, which is the different pronunciation of the same word in different contexts. Let's take an example. In figure 1, you can see the productions of a child's intraword variations and an adult's productions. As the examples illustrate, the consonant D in the target word Dari is produced D when the word comes in the middle of the sentence, but it is produced as a voiceless plosive such as T or the glottal stop when the word comes in the beginning of the sentence. Analyzing these variations in the OT framework show that the variations in the pronunciation of the word Dare in the two different contexts is because of the different constraint rankings applied in these two different contexts, as we can see from table 4 and 5. In the sentence initial position, the markedness constraint dominates the faithfulness constraint, whereas it is vice versa in the sentence medial position. Therefore, as assumed by OT, contextual differences can motivate diverse constraint rankings that in turn can create interword variations. Now let us move to interchild variation. What is interchild variation? The different error types between typical and atypical children produce interchild variations. For example, normally children devoice plosives in word final position in Farsi. However, the children with atypical phonological development have changed devoiced plosives to voiced ones in the word final position. OT explains these unusual interchild differences through its architecture. Let's look at table 5 and 6. In these tables, a child with atypical development shows that the constraint no spread glottis is ranked higher, that is, it dominates the other two constraints in both productions. This dominancy leads to the production of d instead of t in word final positions in these children. In table 7, which gives the productions of a typically developing child, the constraint word final obstruents are voiceless dominates no spread glottis and ident IO voice, and thus devoiced t is produced in word final position instead of voiced t. To conclude, interword variation occurs whenever the same target word surfaces in dissimilar ways dependent on the context in which it appears. However, intraword variations occur where the ranking of constraints are equal and generate multiple optimal outputs, as we have seen in many examples now. This study reveals how an optimality theoretic account of multiple optimal outputs in atypical phonological acquisition could be handled in terms of partly ordered constraint rankings or stratified domination hierarchies. This module has indicated the high capacity of OT in recognition and analysis of different kinds of phonological processes, including various types of variation and interacting phonological processes in atypical phonological development. This can guide clinicians to the proper strategy which must be selected during treatment process. Thus, to summarize, this module focused on the contribution of OT to the characterization of atypical phonological development. In the first part, we saw some pre-OT linguistic theories on the characterization of phonological disorders. Next, we saw OT's contribution to the characterization of phonological disorders, and we discussed it with some examples from various studies. Finally, several error patterns of disordered phonologies acquiring Farsi are presented and are analyzed in OT and compared with the error patterns observed in typically developing phonologies acquiring Farsi to indicate the power of OT in illuminating the origin of differences between typical and atypical phonological development. Thank you.